Albanese.
Brizzy. And at Labor's first national conference since forming government, its leader spruiked its achievements.
The motto of this conference speaks to the focus of our government, working for Australia.
He addressed cost of living pressures.
Today I say to Australians, there's more help on the way.
And talked up the voice.
So we closed the gap between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians.
He also had a pop at former PM ScoMo's portfolio-pinching ways.
The Prime Minister, the Treasurer, the Health Minister, the Minister for Industry and the Minister for Home Affairs walk into a bar. And the bartender says, just the usual, Scott.
Outside the convention centre, protest groups certainly weren't joking around.
Today, construction workers have walked off the job across Brisbane City to march in support of the union's campaign to ban engineered stone. 1 in 4 workers, so that's 25% of workers that use this product, are suffering from silicosis or another form of deadly dust disease.
The CFMEU also calling on the government to implement a super profits tax on banks and other big corporations to fund social housing.
Our union has come forward with a bold plan, but a necessary plan to build the social and affordable housing that we need, and we can do that by imposing a super profits tax on the small elite corporate cabal that's currently making excessive profits and not returning much back to society.
Also vocal, climate activists.
What do we want? When do we want it? Now!
So we're here with hundreds of people telling Labor that we don't want them to pay with public money to frack the NT, and we need them to stop taking fossil fuels out of the ground.
We want Labor to go beyond coal and try and support other renewable energies, which Australia has plenty of them.
Meanwhile, as Albo tried to stay positive about yesterday's National Cabinet results,
Strengthening the National Housing Accord to help Australia build an additional 1.2 million homes before the end of the decade.
this guy bobbed up to stir the pot.
Well, it seems to me that this is just another figure that the Prime Minister's plucked out of the air. Increasing it to 1.2 million might sound good, and the Prime Minister might be talking a big game, but the Prime Minister never delivers.
Anyway, that was day one.
Your Labor government, working for you, working for Australia. Thanks very much.
TNU's first political editor, Ashleigh Raper, is at the conference. Ash, let's be clear, this is a meeting where all the various factions of Labor come together and they argue for their various agendas, as we just saw there. How much is Albo actually taking on board?
Well, look, this is one of the great Labor traditions. You have hundreds of people coming together, you've got left factions fighting with the right factions, and then they nut out policy and it's a big fight. Today, though, not so much. It's very much the stage-managed event. There's a perception that there is debate, but realistically, most of the negotiations are happening behind closed doors because people here are acutely aware that they do not want to embarrass the Prime Minister. So this is really to show that Labor is unified and is thoughtful about the policies they're putting forward.
One of those big policies discussed was the Help to Buy housing scheme. Is the government really going to help people buy houses?
Yes, this isn't a new policy announcement. This was brought up in the election and Anthony Albanese went to the polls with this idea. And how it works is it's a shared equity scheme. So for low to middle income earners, you can get a smaller deposit, up to 2%, and then the government puts in 30 or 40%, depending on if it's a new or existing home. So they own a share in your house, you pay it off over time and finally pay the government out of it. So they say that this will help 40,000 people over 4 years. And what was announced today was now that all the states and territories have agreed to start rolling this out from next year. So there's now a start date for this scheme that was taken to the election.
Ash, it feels like there's been a real shift in support for the government recently. The Voice, as we know, is floundering. The polls are heading south. The Greens are blocking the PM's big housing policy. Do you think Albo would be having a few sleepless nights right about now?
Well, I don't think if you're the Prime Minister you'd ever sleep really
true.
well. But look, there are bigger challenges facing the Prime Minister than there were, say, a couple of months ago. And a lot of that has to do with when there's a cost of living crisis, how to try to get that referendum on the line. And the Prime Minister has a lot of political skin in the game on that one, but also convince people that Labor still cares about the cost of living crisis and the housing crisis when they're being battered by the Greens day in, day out on that. So, yes, there are a lot of challenges facing the Prime Minister, which would be keeping him up at night.
Ash, it looks like Labor has one of those photo booths behind you. I'll let you go and have barrels of fun with that. Thank you very much for speaking to us.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.